What happened to my local Kroger? That's a question millions of Americans have been asking in 2024. Thousands of grocery stores are disappearing all over the country, and people deserve to know what is truly going on. Kroger customers in particular are seeing store closures happening more frequently than in the past. After decades in business, the company has been closing up shop and leaving hundreds of U.S. communities. From the third quarter of 2023 to the third quarter of 2024, more than 600 locations were shut down by the company, and hundreds of others ceased operations over the past couple of months across Washington State, Oregon, Texas, and Colorado. The closings were a necessary step, according to the grocer. As it prepared to merge with Albertsons and become the biggest superpower in the U.S. grocery industry, Kroger agreed on closing a large number of locations to comply with antitrust regulations imposed by courts. However, what was shaping up to be the biggest supermarket merger in all American history collapsed last week, with Albertsons pulling out of the $24.6 billion deal and suing Kroger for not doing enough to push their proposed alliance through. Now, facing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, mounting debt, falling sales, price gouging accusations, and being left with a much smaller brick-and-mortar footprint, Kroger is staring into a financial abyss. The merger was meant to help both companies compete with other big retailers. More importantly, combining the two companies would allow the businesses to improve their financial health. A larger customer base would translate into higher sales volumes and a bigger market share. Together, Kroger and Albertsons would control around 16% of the U.S. grocery market. By comparison, Walmart controls around 22%. The merger included the company's own dozens of grocery chains like Safeway, Vons, Harris Teeter, and Fred Meyer. Many of them have also closed multiple locations this year or were sold to other operators like Aldi, which are rebranding their stores to expand their operations in the U.S. Under the merger agreement, Kroger and Albertsons, who compete in 22 states, also agreed to sell more than 500 stores in places where their locations overlap to C&S Wholesale Grocers. That's a New Hampshire-based supplier to independent supermarkets that owns the Grand Union and Piggly Wiggly store brands. Advocates argued that Kroger and Albertsons wanted to combine their businesses to create a grocery corporation that would no longer employ unionized workers, just as Walmart and Amazon. For their part, the companies argued that the merger would result in lower prices to consumers. But the Federal Trade Commission didn't believe that was the case. Last week, federal judge Adrienne Nelson in Oregon said that the grocery chains are distinct from other retailers and are not direct competitors to Walmart, Amazon, Target, Costco, and other companies that sell a wider range of goods. The merger would, in fact, eliminate head-to-head competition between Albertsons and Kroger, potentially raising prices for consumers, she said in the ruling. A coalition of unions, small grocery stores, and political leaders from both parties were against the deal, saying it could increase corporate consolidation in the industry. Earlier this year, the Federal Trade Commission sued to block the merger, and its collapse was a victory for outgoing FTC Chair Lina Khan, who has been a skeptic of big mergers and acquisitions, arguing they often harm consumers. Regulators noted that the companies would have too much pricing control and that the merger would result in lower wages for workers due to the lack of unionization. Right after the court's ruling was released, Albertsons filed a lawsuit against Kroger seeking a $600 million termination fee, as well as billions of dollars in legal fees and lost shareholder value. Kroger said the claims were baseless and that Albertsons was not entitled to the fee. Albertsons CEO Vivek Shankaran said in a statement Wednesday, "We have made the difficult decision to terminate the merger agreement," Albertsons CEO Vivek Shankaran said in a statement on Wednesday. Albertsons also sued Kroger for breach of its contract agreement, alleging Kroger caused the merger to be blocked. Albertsons said that Kroger failed to exercise its best efforts and to take any and all actions to secure regulatory approval of the merger. Albertsons exposed that Kroger refused to divest the assets necessary for antitrust approval, ignored regulators' feedback, and rejected divestiture buyers that would have been stronger than C&S. Kroger's self-serving conduct, taken at the expense of Albertsons and the agreed transaction, has harmed Albertsons' shareholders, associates, and consumers, said Tom Moriarty, Albertsons' general counsel, in a statement. On the other hand, Kroger said Albertsons' claims were baseless and without merit, a deflection of Albertsons' own multiple breaches, and an attempt to receive a breakup fee to which they are not entitled. The companies could have appealed the rulings or proceeded to the in-house FTC hearings, but Albertsons decided to pull out of the deal instead. "I'm in a state of professional and commercial shock that they would take this scorched earth approach," said Bert Flickinger, a longtime analyst and owner of retail consulting firm Strategic Resource Group. The logical thing would have been for Albertsons to let the decision sink in for a day and then meet and see what could be done, but the lawsuit seems to make that a moot issue. Kroger is unlikely to find another merger partner because it has significant debt and underperforming stores in most of its market, Flickinger added. The chain will feel the most immediate impact of the deal's demise, given that it is losing the value battle to Walmart and other discount retailers. Kroger products are on average 12% to 14% higher than other grocery rivals. They've so much debt to pay it off it's reflected in their pricing and promotional structure, Flickinger stressed. But it can no longer rely on price hikes to make up for lost revenue. U.S. senators are investigating how Kroger's new technology is helping the company to price gouge their customers. In a recent letter sent by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and fellow Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania to Congress, the lawmakers explained how Kroger's transition to electronic shelving labels, or ESLs, is allowing it to dynamically price groceries, creating scarcity around essential goods by pricing them like airline tickets. Widespread adoption of digital price tags appears poised to enable large grocery stores to squeeze consumers to increase profits, reads the letter. Everyday Americans still struggle to put food on the table because giant corporations facing little competition can force customers to pay too much for essential grocery items while they further increase their profits. Kroger started to introduce electronic shelving labels in stores back in 2018. The new technology they called Kroger Edge gave the company the power to instantly change prices across dozens of stores. When it was first announced, the tech was promoted as a way to make shopping more friendly to consumers. The labels would include video ads and coupons and allow shoppers to easily look for specific brands on their smartphone and even browse for products based on dietary restrictions. However, Kroger Edge started to become a major concern due to so-called surge pricing. Just like Uber prices that spiked during rush hour, the company was able to increase the price of ice cream on a hot day or hot chocolate during a snowstorm. Food items, the senators wrote, rather than having a single set price that everyone could understand and compare, would fluctuate based not just on circumstances, but potentially based on the shopper, allowing the store to figure out ways to extract the maximum amount of profit from each customer. The senators concluded the letter with a list of questions for Kroger to provide by the end of the first quarter of 2025, including what the average change in price was for goods subjected to dynamic pricing, and whether Kroger ever changes the prices of goods more than one time in a single day. They emphasized it is outrageous that as families continue to struggle to pay out to put food on the table, grocery giants like Kroger continue to roll out surge pricing and other corporate profiteering schemes. The way the grocer has been handling its finances is raising alarms amongst politicians, regulators, and investors, especially as controversies continue to damage Kroger's reputation. While Kroger CEO Rodney McMullen got a lot richer last year, most of his company's workers faced homelessness, eviction, or hunger. A survey conducted by the Economic Roundtable discovered that 36% of Kroger employees in Southern California, Colorado, and Washington said they were worried about eviction in 2024. More than 3/4, or about 78%, are currently food insecure. On top of that, 1 in 7 Kroger workers faced homelessness in the past year. There are workers sleeping in RVs or couch surfing or living in parks somewhere. Peter Dreyer, a researcher on the project, highlighted during an interview with Business Insider. Americans go to their local supermarket every week and smile at the person cashing them out, not aware that the person they're talking to is going to sleep in a car after they clock out. When adjusting to today's inflation, even the most experienced Kroger food clerks, who are the highest paid in the company, saw wages decline by 22% over the past decade, according to the study. Meanwhile, company executives received generous raises and bonuses in the past few years. McMullen, for instance, made over $22 million in 2023. On the flip side, the median annual worker pay at Kroger was $24,617 last year, meaning the CEO made 909 times the pay of the average worker. As the authors note, the Kroger worker rate of food insecurity is 7 times higher than the national average. Dreyer lamented, "The biggest irony and tragedy is that here are people who spend all day around food, and when they go home, they can't afford to feed their families adequately. There would be days where I would starve myself so my kids can eat, but even that's not enough." A cheese shop clerk at a Kroger store in Colorado wrote in a survey response, "There have been times when I couldn't pay my rent and ended up on the street." The supermarket's chain's problems are only getting deeper as management fails to address declining foot traffic at stores and sluggish growth. Neil Saunders, managing director and retail analyst at Global Data Retail, pointed out that Kroger's latest results bore all the hallmarks of a struggling retailer. Kroger's sales have not only dropped on a comparable basis, but its growth rate is well below the industry average and the rate of inflation for groceries. In other words, Kroger is losing market share. Saunders outlined this is not a blip. Kroger's growth has been poor for well over a year. Over the past 4 quarters, its average sales growth has been a paltry 0.2%, again well below the market. Given that Kroger prices are leading consumers to switch some or all of their grocery spending to other chains, Kroger is being very hard hit right now. It's not really a new trend. The value segment of grocery retail has been increasing its share of shoppers for ages, he said. The thing is that now that inflation numbers are cooling down, it's becoming clear that consumers at all income levels are using chains like Walmart more intensely. The problem is, once spending has been lost, it is incredibly difficult to get back, Neil Saunders from Global Data Retail emphasized. That's why the merger with Albertsons was so important to Kroger. It was a way of boosting profits and giving investors hope for a brighter financial future. But now that those hopes have been crushed, the company is headed to a solitary freefall. Thank you for watching.